Is this some kind of joke? The question hung in the crisp autumn air, sharp and mean. Bryce, the cadet, with the neat uniform and the sneer on his face, held the training pistol steady. Its black, hard muzzle was pressed firmly against the thin, wrinkled skin of Henry's temple. Henry, all of 87 years old, didn't move. He sat on the park bench, his hands resting on his knees, his eyes looking at some faraway point beyond the nice lawns of the town square. His calm was like an island in a sea of angry teenagers. Another cadet, a tall, thin boy named Peterson, moved from foot to foot. "Give it up, old man. Just show some respect and we'll go away." His voice tried to sound tough but shook a little. Bryce's voice was hard. "I said, are you deaf or just stupid?" He pushed the gun harder into Henry's head. "I am a cadet officer at West March Military Academy. You will stand when I talk to you." Henry's eyes, the color of a faded sky, slowly moved and looked at Bryce. They were not angry, not scared. They were just watching. Deep inside, something old and dangerous moved. The fight had not started with a gun. It had started with a coffee cup. Henry liked to drink his coffee in the park every Tuesday morning. He would sit on the same bench. He would watch the cadets practice on the fields far away. It made him remember when his back was straight, when his legs were strong. He was pouring a cup of hot black coffee when they came over. 4 of them, walking like they owned the place. They wore uniforms. They thought that made them better than everyone. Bryce led them. He was tall. He had a strong chin and mean eyes. They saw Henry, an old man in an old red jacket. They decided to pick on him for fun. "Look at this old guy," Bryce said loud enough for everyone to hear. "He probably thinks he's still fighting in the old wars." The others laughed. Henry did not pay attention to them. He took a slow sip of his coffee. His quiet was like a blank page. The boys filled it with their own mean thoughts. They thought being still meant he was weak. They thought being quiet meant he was scared. "What's that on your jacket, Pops?" one of them asked. He pointed at Henry's jacket. There was a small old metal pin, an eagle, globe, and anchor. It was worn smooth from time. The silver color was gone. It looked dull. "Probably got it from a cereal box," Bryce laughed. He stepped closer. He got in Henry's space. "Guys like you are everywhere. You wear an old piece of junk. You expect us to thank you." Henry slowly put the cap back on his coffee cup. He placed it carefully beside him on the bench. He did not look at them, but his voice, though quiet, was strong. "You should move along, boys." The simple order with no anger made Bryce really mad. Who was this old man to tell them what to do? Them, the future leaders of the world's best army? "Or what, Grandpa?" Bryce said meanly. "You going to bore us to death with a story about how hard things were way back when?" He reached out. He pushed Henry's shoulder. It was not a hard push, but it was not okay. It crossed a line. Henry did not fall. He stood there solid like an old tree. He was shorter than Bryce. He weighed much less. Yet for the first time, the other cadets felt worried. There was something about the way Henry stood, a quiet power. It was scarier than any yelling. "I will not tell you again," Henry said. His voice was still low, still calm. That was when Bryce got even angrier. His face turned red with anger. To be told no, however quietly, by this old man in front of his friends, this was something he could not handle. "You won't tell me again?" Bryce's laugh was sharp, not funny. "You are in no place to tell me anything." He pulled out the blue and orange training gun from his belt. The other cadets took a nervous step back. This was no longer just teasing an old man. "Bryce, maybe we should just go," Peterson said. His voice was worried. "Shut up, Peterson," Bryce snapped. His eyes stayed on Henry. "This old man needs to learn about respecting his betters." He took a step forward. He pressed the gun to Henry's head. And that's when everything in the park seemed to slow down. A woman walking her dog stopped. She put her hand to her mouth. A man reading a paper lowered it. His eyes were wide, but no one moved. No one helped. They just watched. Bryce leaned in. His voice was mean and quiet. "Now you are going to say you're sorry to me. You are going to stand up straight and call me sir. Understand?" Henry's face did not change, but in his mind something happened. The present went away. He saw the past. The cool plastic gun on his head felt strange. The real gun was heavy and solid, a nice weight in a young man's hand. The cool fall air of the park changed. It became the hot, wet smell of a jungle far away, a smell of mud and rot and blood. The mean face of the cadet turned into the scared eyes of an enemy soldier, a boy no older than Bryce. His hands were up. He was across a muddy, bloody hole in the ground. Henry was not there in that memory as the scared one. He was there as the strong one. He was there as the one who held the line. The memory got clearer. It focused on one thing, a hand, his captain's hand, pressing a small old eagle, globe, and anchor pin into Henry's palm. The pin was still warm from the captain's pocket. It felt so heavy. "They'll give you the real one later, Gunny." The captain's voice was tired and sad. "But this one was my father's. He wore it in the war. You honor him by wearing it now." The memory went away as fast as it came. It left only an echo of deep sadness and strong duty. He was back on the park bench. The gun was still at his head. The boy was still talking. "Look at it," Bryce sneered. He flicked the old pin with his free hand. "Probably doesn't even know what it means." Across the street, Frank Jensen, a retired Army colonel in an old shirt, had been on his way to buy a paper. He had seen the cadets walking toward the old man. He thought nothing of it. Boys will be boys. He had seen 1,000 like them. But when the gun came out, his blood went cold. He could see the mean pride of the lead cadet, and he could see the old man. Frank's breath caught. He knew that look. He had seen it in the eyes of men in wars, in mountains far away, and in the mirror after his own third time fighting. It was the calm of a man who had walked through terrible things. It was the look of a man who was now, with great sadness, getting ready to fight again. And Frank knew for sure, if someone did not stop this in the next 30 seconds, those 4 cadets were going to learn a lesson. A lesson that would hurt them for life. The old man was not in danger. They were. Frank's hands shook with anger and fear. He looked for his phone. He did not dial 911. The local police would not understand this. He scrolled through his contacts. His thumb hit the screen. He knew exactly who to call. The phone rang twice, then a man answered. "McRaven." "Marcus, it's Frank Jensen," Frank said. His voice was fast and urgent. "I'm in the town square. You have 4 of your cadets attacking an old man. One of them is holding a weapon to his head." There was a pause. Then the general's voice came, hard and sharp. "Are you certain they're mine?" "I'm looking at their patches right now, Marcus." "They're yours," Frank said, "and you need to get down here. Not your police, you come. The old man, he's not scared. He's about to solve this himself if you don't hurry, and I don't think you want to see how he solves it." "Describe the man," General McRaven said. "Old, maybe late 80s, thin, faded red jacket, and he has a pin on his shirt, an old eagle, globe, and anchor." The silence on the other end was very quiet. Frank could almost hear the general thinking. "Frank," McRaven's voice was different now, tight with something that sounded like worry. "Describe the pin." "It's old," Frank said. He squinted. "Worn, almost smooth. Looks like it's been through wars." There was a sharp breath. "Then stay there, Frank. Don't let him leave. I'm coming right now." The line went dead. Frank Jensen put down his phone. He had a feeling this was about to become a very interesting Tuesday morning. Inside the office of the leader of West March, General Marcus McRaven stood very straight. The phone was still in his hand long after the line went dead. He put it back in its place. He moved slowly and carefully. It showed the anger inside him. Tarnished, worn smooth. An old Marine, his mind raced. "Captain," he yelled at the helper standing by the door. "Sir, get me the top secret files. I want the file for Operation Nightfall, not the public one. The real secret ones from way back. Now." The captain's eyes got big. "Sir, that file is under triple secret. It needs the president to—" "Did I stutter, Captain?" McRaven's voice was a low growl. It did not allow any talking back. The helper got pale. He nodded. He practically ran from the room. McRaven turned to his secret computer. His fingers moved fast across the keys. He typed in codes. These codes let him look at the military's deepest secrets. He typed in words. Nightfall. Ghost Platoon. Sole Survivor. A single file showed up on the screen. It was mostly hidden, but at the top there was an old black and white picture. It was from over 50 years ago. It showed a young Marine sergeant. His face was dirty and tired. His eyes were burning with power. Below the picture was a name, Henry, and below that was a call name. A call name that had become famous in the secret parts of the military. Call sign, Ghost. McRaven felt a cold fear wash over him. It couldn't be. Not him. Not here. He grabbed his desk phone. It had direct lines to his top staff. Colonel Davies, Major Thorne, gather the entire command staff on the front steps. Class A uniforms. 5 minutes ago, he commanded, get the command vehicles ready. Code 1. Escort to the town square. Go. He put down the phone. He walked toward the door. He grabbed his formal hat. Back in the park, Bryce was drunk on his own power. Henry's continued quiet was a fight he could not take. It was like yelling at a mountain. The lack of answer was more upsetting than any fight. What's the matter, old man? Lost your nerve? Bryce sneered. He pushed the gun a little harder. The other cadets moved nervously. The joke, if it had ever been one, was long dead. This was something else now. Something ugly and out of hand. I am a future officer of the United States Armed Forces, Bryce declared. He puffed out his chest. I represent the power of this nation. You are an old man who is in my way. I could have you arrested. I could have you sent to a hospital. You need to learn your place. It was the final bad mistake. He had completely switched the roles. Good guy and bad guy. Strong and weak. He saw the uniform on his own body, but he did not see the many years of honor in the quiet man before him. Henry just watched him. His faded blue eyes held a world of experience. Experience that Bryce could not even begin to understand. Then came the sound. It started as a faraway cry, growing fast and closer, not the familiar sound of a police car or a fire truck. This was a strong, sharp siren, the kind used for high-level military escorts. The crowd in the park whispered. They turned their heads toward the sound. 3 shiny black SUVs came down the main street. 2 military police cars with flashing lights came with them. They screamed down the street. They stopped fast at the edge of the square. They did not park nice. They stopped at mean angles. They blocked the road. Their doors flew open before they even stopped moving. Out of the front vehicle stepped General Marcus McRaven. He was a picture of command. His Class A uniform was perfect. His chest was full of colorful ribbons. His face showed cold anger. His entire senior staff followed him. A dozen colonels and majors. Men who give orders, not take them. All moving with a scary purpose. The 4 cadets froze. Their blood turned to ice. They knew who the commandant was right away. Bryce's jaw dropped. The gun in his hand suddenly felt so heavy. His face, red with proud power moments ago, was now white as ash. General McRaven's boots crunched on the grass as he walked forward. He did not look at the cadets. He did not see the crowd. His eyes, burning with cold, strong fire, were locked on one man and one man only, Henry. His staff spread out behind him. They formed a quiet, scary half-circle. It separated this moment from the rest of the world. McRaven stopped exactly 3 feet in front of Henry. He did not look at Bryce. He did not look at the gun still shaking at Henry's head. He just stood there for a second. His presence took all the air out of the park. Then, with a crack of his heels on the dry grass that sounded like a gunshot, he stood up straight. He gave the most formal salute of his long and honored career. Sergeant Major Henry, McRaven's voice boomed, clear and strong, echoing across the quiet square. General McRaven, Commandant of West March. It is an honor, sir. The words hit the air like a punch. Sir. The Commandant had called the old man Sir. Bryce looked like he had been hit by lightning. The title itself was a shock. Sergeant Major, the highest and most respected military rank, a legend all its own. But McRaven was not finished. He stood there, his hand held in that perfect salute. He began to speak again. His voice said great deeds, like he was reading from a sacred book he knew by heart. Henry Ghost, last name, United States Marine Corps retired, he began. His voice rang with respect that amazed the watchers. Recipient of the Navy Cross, He paused. The Silver Star. Another pause. 3 times. 16 Purple Hearts. A big gasp went through the crowd. Frank Jensen across the street lowered his phone. He allowed a slow, grim smile to spread across his face. He was the only survivor of the siege of Anloc's Ghost Platoon. After holding the northern border against 3 waves of enemy attack, McRaven continued. His eyes stayed on Henry. He is the man who single-handedly defended Hill 742 for 3 days and 3 nights, with a captured machine gun and 7 shots in his gun until help could arrive. McRaven finally lowered his salute, but his posture remained one of deep, strong respect. Sergeant Major, your after-action reports are required reading. For every officer student who walks through the gates of my academy, you are not a relic, you are the standard. The public support was absolute. The legend had been shown to all to see. The quiet old man in the worn jacket was revealed to be a giant, a pillar of the very group that these boys had claimed to represent. Bryce finally, clumsily lowered the gun. It slipped from his shaking fingers. It clattered onto the ground. Only then did General McRaven turn his look upon the 4 cadets. The warmth and respect in his expression vanished, replaced by a cold look, a look that was scarier than any yell. His voice dropped to a low, deadly whisper. It was somehow meaner than his earlier loud voice. You, he said, pinning Bryce with a look of pure shame. Cadet, what is your name? Bryce Thompson, sir, he stammered. His body was shaking. Cadet Thompson, McRaven said. The words dripped with ice. You put a weapon to the head of a living legend. You stood on the shoulders of giants like him to get a better look at yourself. You have shamed that uniform. You have shamed this academy. And you have shamed the United States Marine Corps. The Corps whose honor this man defended with his own blood. He turned to his helper. Captain, take them. They are expelled from West March Academy, starting right now. They will be taken out and escorted from this base within the hour. Their military careers are over before they began. See to it that their records show bad conduct in the strongest possible way. The cadets were white-faced and shaking. They looked like their worlds had just ended. They offered no protest. 2 stern-faced majors stepped forward to take them away. McRaven turned back to Henry. His expression became soft once more, into one of deep apology. Sergeant Major Henry, on behalf of West March and the entire armed forces, I am deeply and truly sorry for the shame you were shown today. Henry finally looked away from the faraway point. He met the general's eyes. He gave a small, almost not visible nod. He then looked at the 4 disgraced cadets walking away. They're just boys, General, he said. His voice was quiet, but carrying a lifetime of power, full of pride with no war to put it in. They need to learn that the uniform doesn't make the man. The man has to be worthy of the uniform. It was not an excuse for their behavior, but an explanation, a piece of wisdom offered with grace instead of anger. Henry's hand went to his shirt. His thumb gently rubbed the worn surface of the eagle, globe, and anchor. For a brief second, the park, the general, and the crowd all faded away. He was 20 years old again, lying on a stretcher. The world was a blur of pain and muddy green. A face leaned over him. His captain, a man he loved. His own face was a mask of sadness for the men they had lost. The captain pressed the small pin into Henry's palm. He closed Henry's bloody fingers around it. The real one will come later, Gunny, the captain had said. His voice was thick with feeling. But this one was my father's. He wore it in the war. You honor him by wearing it now. The pin was not just metal. It was a link in a chain of honor. A legacy of sacrifice passed from one generation to the next. A legacy these boys had almost stepped on. The fallout at West March Academy was fast and sure. General McRaven was true to his word. Within a week, a new required class was added. For all first-year cadets. It was called The Legacy of the Enlisted, Foundations of Honor. The first lesson was a detailed 3-hour case study on the service record of Sergeant Major Henry Ghost, last name. The Academy also issued a formal public apology in the town's local newspaper, saying sorry for the big failure in leadership and character, shown by the former cadets. and saying again its promise to the values Sergeant Major Henry embodied. But the story's true ending took place a month later, not in a classroom or a parade ground, but in the bright fluorescent aisle of a local grocery store. Bryce Thompson, without his uniform and his future now stocking shelves, his movements robotic, his eyes looking down. He wore a stained red apron and a name tag. He was restocking canned soup when he heard a quiet voice beside him. "The chicken noodle is better than the tomato." Bryce froze. He looked up slowly. He saw Henry standing there, holding a shopping basket. The old man was not smiling, but his eyes held no meanness. There was no "I told you so," no leftover anger. There was only a quiet, unnerving sense of peace. Bryce's first thought was to run, to disappear between the shelves of pasta and pickles. He felt a hot flush of shame creep up his neck. So intense it was almost too much. He could not speak. He just stared, waiting for the blame he knew he deserved. Henry picked up a can of chicken noodle soup. He placed it in his basket. He looked directly at Bryce, not as a hero to a disgraced person, but simply as one man to another. "It's a heavy burden, son," Henry said. His voice was soft. "That pride of yours, it can be a powerful tool, or it can be a poison. The hardest lesson we ever learn is the difference." He paused, letting the words settle in the quiet aisle. "Don't let this be the end of your story. Let it be the beginning of a better one." He gave a single brief nod, then turned and continued his shopping. His footsteps made a soft shuffling sound on the floor. Bryce was left standing alone in the aisle, surrounded by cans of soup. For the first time since he was a small child, he felt tears welling in his eyes. It was in that moment of quiet, unexpected grace that his true education finally began. The story of Henry reminds us that heroes walk among us every day, often in the quietest of forms. If you were inspired by this story of valor and vindication, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more stories, and share it with someone who needs to hear it.